Hi, I'm here at Cabrillo College taking back returns of children's books for the Children's Peace Library, and I will put a link in this week's module. But while I'm here, I wanted to share with you a board that I think is an important board as we think about how we work with children and what we do with them in the classroom. How do we help them remember the story of our past and what has happened in our country over the past 200, 300 years? And so this bulletin board is one that I put up literally a week before we went on shelter in place in March. And it's called Remembering What Shouldn't Be Forgotten. And if you look, all of these different books tell the history from very, very early. Molly Banachie and Hatunka's Harvest are back from before the country was formed, before as the first settlers came. Molly Banachie was a wonderful story of freedom and female empowerment way back when indentured servitude was a thing, all the way through some of the artists who really had an impact on who we are, Frida Kahlo, some of the civil rights movements that happened in the 60s, and the advocacy that was done to bring the first round of civil rights into place in the late 1960s. And some of the stories, like turning 15 on the road to freedom. Some of the stories more recently with Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, about rights for the people working to produce our food. There's other books on this board. Something Happened in Our Town, which I'm hoping to do a reading for soon for our Peace Library, that talk about different conversations that happen with different families. These two children, one white and one African American, experience a shooting, a violent act in their community, and each of them go home and have conversations with their families. And the book is a beautiful telling about how those conversations are different. The Dreamers, Soñadores, a wonderful book about finding a dream. Ada's Violin, also a fantastic book, more modern, about an entire orchestra that was created in a junkyard and found hope for children. One thing I want to think about this week is how do we incorporate the history that we have into what we're doing with children? How do we make sure that part of what we're learning with children is how to communicate, how to remember, how to keep the stories alive of peace and freedom and belonging? How do we tell the history of our entire world, country, culture, and not just that history that they're going to be learning? And this can be done even at young ages. One of the things to be aware of in these two books here, Juneteenth and All Different Now, are two books that talk about it, is that on June 19th, we will be coming up on a holiday or celebration, remembrance is probably a better word, of Juneteenth. And it is the day when the last slave was told that they were free. It took 6 months to travel around the U.S. to tell every plantation, every slave, that they actually had been freed. It is appalling that it took that long for people to hear that the North had won the war and slavery was ended. But it's true. And the last city plantation to hear was in Texas. And so Juneteenth is a remembrance of that day and a celebration of the end of slavery. And so I think there's a lot of history here to think about. Hopefully you can catch the titles of some of these books and think about how you could incorporate that history in curriculum you do with children, work you do with teachers as a supervisor, any of the work that you're doing. If you want more guidance or help or support on how to do that, please let me know. And I will also put a link and a video on how to look for books around specific topics into our modules this week.